Hello, 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 and a massive hello to everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day. Hope everybody had a couple of days off and got some rest, got refreshed, got ready to go here. So, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? No trade calls, no recommendations. Every response for their own stuff. We're here for educational purposes only, as usual. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for all the shares. Thank you for all the retweets. Very much appreciated. A little shout out to the 50 Scouts group. Remember to check your inboxes before the end of before Friday morning. You'll get a free pass for the weekly session on Friday. So that's going to be in your inbox. So what's going on here as we go this, we're going into tax season, seasonals, not so great for the market. We'll have to see what's going on. Now, a couple of things we were discussing and a couple of things we've been looking at. So if everybody who's been following these remembers, we were talking about volatility had to pick up pretty much, right? It was a question, not a question of if, it was just a question of when, right? And we're starting to look for a nice little move into high double digits. We're looking for this to come all the way back into the descending trend line, but ultimately we think we've got move into the 20s and ultimately is much higher sometime this quarter. We'll have to see. Of course, we don't know when it's going to come, but clearly it's holding bid. And even though it might move up here, retrace a little bit and pause around, we still think the next bigger move is to the upside, not to the downside. Okay, so in terms of the markets, I mean, fairly classical action, right? We've been talking a lot about the fact that we think we're putting in a nice little top on equities. We feel that those highs in March are going to hold right here, hovering around this 50 DMA. We said as the line in the sand, we would not get excited, but any of this strength, as long as we held this area, right, we expected this to continue to try and press to the downside. Here we had a nice little break. So here it looks like we're going to try and come and tag this 100, right? That's going to be the nice big bull bear line. This is a nice big zone. So what does that mean? That means on any press lower, you want to see how the market reacts around this 100-day, right? Closes above, potential bounce zone, closes below, you'd expect this to extend lower all the way back into the 200, right? And as long as this descending trend line holds, any bounce that gets sold, the base outlook still has to be for a bigger retracement lower, right? And that's pretty much what you're seeing across the board on all the equity indices, right? And as we were discussing a while back, we said if we're looking at the standard deviation channel with 3 deviations on the YM, we felt that all this move higher, this was very, very nice risk reward to sell here with wider stops back above those 21,600s, pretty much saying that in terms of risk, if you're willing to take 2.5 risk, we thought the bigger move was to the downside, not to the upside. So this is still in play. We'll have to see how this plays out, but we still think at the very least we should get a move right back down into the Dow 2000 again. But ultimately, our base case is still that we're still in play for the bigger test back into that 200 DMA. And this is really the level we're interested in as a massive, massive, massive line in the sand, bull bear line for, are we going to continue this big rotation higher? Or is this going to break and we get that retest of the election night lows? So as far as we're concerned, really the bigger structural levels, this is interesting, and this is interesting, right? And most importantly, this is the key for the bigger ultimately rotation on the stocks higher or a much bigger correction. So again, all those things haven't really changed that much. If you look at the ZBs, very nice little action here, and it's still, we'll have to see what happens here, but if you keep in mind the current geopolitical climate, what's happening with Trump, et cetera, the path of least resistance to us still seems higher. We still think we've got to tag these 160s. Now, does that mean that's going to happen in a straight line? Absolutely not. Would it be healthy to see some kind of a little retracement here to then press that next level? Sure, we'll just have to wait and see. But here it's holding bid, and this break is fairly significant. So be very cautious trying to fade this very, very aggressively, right? Gold, what's happening on gold? We tag through that descending trend line. Remember, our base case is for that 1300. Now, again, here there's very, the risk reward is clearly not to hold long. So we consider the multiple phases of these upside rotations done now. Okay, so here we'll have to see how we trade. A little correction here would be healthy. This could easily correct all the way back down into the 1260s and still hold bullish for a move back into the 1380s, but at least in terms of a first test, we expect this whole zone here to offer, let me do this again, this whole zone to offer an awful lot of resistance, right? This basically 1300 all the way into the 1340s. So even if we're going to ultimately break much higher, we think this is the zone where it has to correct lower to then break higher from. Right? So we'll have to see what happens. Look at that descending trend line short term. Now, most likely, probably one of the most interesting developments here is crude. So if you remember, again, it's tricky because you could always get headline risk. You don't know what's going to come out of OPEC, but we talked about the fact that we were looking for a move back into these 5250s, into the 55s for an opportunity to get short here. And basically, we got very nice failure here on the daily. So we'll have to see how this trades here. But what we would say is going into the week, keep an eye on these 5250s, right? Now, if we can get daily closes below, then we could try and accelerate lower. Now, clearly, you're going to have a lot of support coming in around this confluence of the two moving averages. This moving average coming in, that's probably going to tie in with a 50 back of this move higher. But here, we really think the velocity of move, or the way the market could get caught off guard here, is with a much bigger move lower, right? So even though we'd be cautious at these supports, we like the odds here for, first of all, a bigger retracement lower, but for this to potentially catch a very nice aggressive traction to the downside. So again, big resistance zone here. We have to respect it. We'll have to see how the market behaves, but very interesting location. That's probably one of the most interesting charts going into the week. Now, in terms of DXY, what's going on? We said for us this was the tell. We're looking for a move back into the 100. So those are very nice shorts. That move is done and dusted here. How would we look at this? Well, no change in outlook, really. The 100 is the bull-bear line, right? Bullish above, bearish below. Above, you'd expect it to try and tag this descending trend line. Again, this is the same as, you can look at it as the one on the equities, right? A break below, you'd expect it to accelerate into that 200 and that the lower end of the ascending trend line. Any move higher that gets sold, still look at this to come here. And as long as we're stuck inside this area, it's much to do about nothing, right? We really need to get a daily close outside here. So expect a lot of choppy action to continue inside this area, and this 100 to be pivotal. Probably this week, unless something happens, unless we get something in terms of headline risk that we're not expecting, in terms of data counter, there's nothing that would suggest that it's going to be a week where we get a strong and aggressive break here, right? So that's pretty much where we stand. Let's see what's happening. If anybody has any comments, any questions, hit me up. We'll review those. I'll try and post something on the blog. Again, thank you so much for everything. Have an awesome one. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye, guys.